Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a breakthrough. You've done the work. You've read the books. You've taken the courses. You've promised yourself, this time will be different. And for a few days, it is. You wake up early. You feel focused. You start creating the version of yourself you always dreamed of. But then, a subtle shift. You procrastinate one task. You numb yourself with screens. You avoid the hard conversation. You feel the resistance rise. And before you know it, you're back where you started, as if something inside you is pulling the brakes. Why? Why do you sabotage your own progress just as you begin to move forward? Why do you unconsciously ruin the very things you claim to want? Is it laziness, fear, a lack of discipline? It's something deeper, more ancient, more powerful, more personal. Carl Jung didn't believe people were just lazy or unmotivated. He believed the psyche was divided. He believed that inside each of us is a war between two selves, the self that longs to evolve, and the self that is terrified of what evolution demands. Because transformation isn't convenient. It's annihilation. It doesn't gently upgrade your life. It shatters the parts of you that were never real to begin with. And a part of you, hidden, quiet, cunning, wants to protect those false selves at all costs. That part is the shadow. And the shadow does not want your growth. It wants your familiarity. You sabotage your progress not because you're broken, but because your subconscious associates growth with death. Not literal death, ego death, the death of control, the death of certainty, the death of the roles you've mastered. To grow, you must leave the known. And to leave the known, you must betray the identity that once kept you safe. This is not a logical process. It's a psychic crucifixion. So you hesitate, you self-sabotage, you create chaos before the change can root. Why? Because if you fail on your own terms, at least you chose it. But if you succeed, you risk becoming someone you can't yet imagine. Someone without the excuses. Someone responsible for joy. Someone powerful enough to no longer hide. And that's terrifying. Because if there's no more hiding, there's no more blaming the world. It's just you, alive, exposed, free. Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. You binge podcasts, take courses, collect affirmations, but none of it works unless you go inward, into the real roots of why you sabotage, why you delay, why you undermine your own becoming. And the answer is never, you're not good enough. It's almost always, you don't feel safe enough. So here's the great question. What if the part of you that sabotages isn't your enemy, but your protector? What if it's not trying to destroy your growth, but to shield you from the unknown that growth demands? And what if you could turn toward that part instead of exiling it? What if the key to transformation isn't force, but integration? In the next section, we'll explore the hidden architecture of self-sabotage. How childhood conditioning, trauma, and unconscious identity fragments shape our behaviors long before we're aware of them. And how Carl Jung's theory of the shadow holds the map to reclaiming what we've exiled in ourselves and finally moving beyond the endless loop of sabotage. Before you ever chose your dreams, you were trained in survival. Before you ever asked yourself, what do I want from life? You were already asking, who do I have to be safe? This is where the root of self-sabotage begins. Not in laziness, not in weakness, but in adaptation. As children, we absorb our environments like gospel. We take in not just words, but unspoken truths. Don't speak too loudly. Don't shine too brightly. Don't cry in front of them. Don't be angry. Don't be inconvenient. And slowly, you begin to edit yourself. You push down rage. You swallow truth. You deny desire. You distort yourself to match the room. Until one day, you no longer know what you actually want. Only what keeps things stable. This curated self becomes your identity, but buried beneath it is everything you exiled to survive. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the repressed aspects of the self that we refuse to acknowledge. But here's the twist. The shadow is not just darkness. It's not just shame or rage or guilt. It's also power, creativity, authentic voice, unfiltered truth. Every part of you that was once dangerous in a broken system was buried. And when you try to grow, you don't just meet external resistance. You awaken these buried parts, and they don't rise gently. They rise like fire. You say you want to evolve, to create, to love more honestly, to speak more freely. But when you start moving toward that, something pulls you back. That's not failure. That's your inner exiled protector saying,
"We've been punished for this before. You're not going there again." And until that protector is seen, understood, and integrated, you will sabotage your own growth to stay safe. Gabor Mate echoes this truth when he writes, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of their parents. If your parents suppressed their voice, you learned silence was safer than expression. If they feared failure, you learned that trying was more dangerous than retreating. If they rejected parts of themselves, you absorbed that rejection and called it normal. This becomes your inner map. And when your adult self dares to draw a new one, your inner child panics. This is why self-sabotage often increases the closer you get to change, because you're approaching the borders of your known self. And beyond that, uncertainty, unwritten rules, new mirrors, new fears. It's not just stepping into potential. It's abandoning the person you built to survive. That takes more than motivation. It takes mourning. Jean-Paul Sartre believed we are condemned to be free, that once we recognize our power, we're forced to take responsibility for everything. That's a terrifying realization, because growth isn't just exciting, it's exposing. Once you stop hiding behind wounds, you can't blame them anymore. You must choose, and choice is freedom's most terrifying gift. So we sabotage, not because we don't want change, but because change demands accountability, and accountability requires identity death. You're not just changing behaviors. You're leaving behind entire worldviews. Ideas like, if I don't suffer, I'm not valuable. If I'm not useful, I'll be abandoned. If I speak my truth, I'll be punished. If I grow, I'll outgrow the people I love. These ideas live deep in the psyche. They are not beliefs. They are codes. Carl Jung warned that unless we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Self-sabotage is not fate. It's unintegrated shadow. It's a ghost pulling the strings from the basement, not out of malice, but out of memory. And the only way to stop repeating the past is to turn toward it. The process? Shadow work, not a trend, not a journaling prompt. A full-body descent into your forgotten self. You begin by asking, what am I avoiding? What parts of me were never allowed to exist? Whose voice is still living inside me? You don't answer these intellectually. You feel them, trace them, speak with them. Because these parts don't need more logic. They need witnessing. This is what true growth demands. Not willpower, but reconciliation with the child who froze to protect you, with the teen who learned sarcasm was safer than sincerity, with the adult who still waits for permission to be whole. Until you integrate these fragments, you will keep sabotaging your own freedom, not because you're unworthy, but because a part of you doesn't yet know that you're safe. And here's the truth. The part of you that resists change is also the key to your transformation. It holds a raw, unfiltered, uncompromising self that's been waiting for you to return, but not to fix it, to finally trust it. In the next section, we'll look at what happens when this integration doesn't happen, the unseen consequences of living in conflict with your own shadow, how this quiet war shapes your choices, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. You can run from the shadow. You can distract, suppress, project, but it doesn't leave. It waits. And while you perform your best self, it orchestrates a quiet rebellion from within. You wonder why your relationships fracture, why your work feels hollow, why you keep repeating cycles you swore you'd outgrow. This is not bad luck. This is the consequence of living at war with yourself. Carl Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is how the shadow operates when denied. It becomes your puppet master, and you don't even know it's happening. You just feel the effects. Sabotage opportunities. emotional volatility, attraction to people who wound you in familiar ways, and worst of all, a gnawing sense that something essential is missing from your life. Let's be clear. The shadow does not sabotage your life out of cruelty. It sabotages your life to preserve your identity, even if that identity is hurting you, even if it's built on wounds, on shame, on lies you inherited from people who never did their own healing. Because to the unconscious mind, pain is safer than the unknown. This is why you keep choosing jobs that drain you, why you stay in relationships that shrink you, why you chase dreams that don't belong to you, and abandon the ones that do. Your conscious mind says, I want to grow. Your unconscious says, only if it doesn't threaten who I think I am. And this tension, this split, becomes your prison. Over time, the wear and tear of this internal war leaks into every part of your life. You wake up already exhausted, not because you've done too much, but because you're living in constant resistance. You scroll for hours. You procrastinate. You numb. You escape into fantasies or fears. Anything to avoid the discomfort of your own truth. You feel disconnected from your own joy, because joy can't land in a body at war with itself. Your relationships suffer. You attract people who mirror your disowned parts. The partner who invalidates your voice, they reflect the voice you've already silenced in yourself. The friend who constantly takes from you, they echo the part of you that believes love must be earned through sacrifice. These patterns aren't random. They're invitations, not to change them, but to face you. The shadow, when left unseen, will turn your life into a stage play, and you'll cast people in roles designed to provoke your pain. Why? Because the psyche is desperate for resolution, and if you won't meet your shadow in meditation or reflection, you will meet it in conflict, in projection, in heartbreak, in collapse. This is not punishment. This is the soul's final strategy. Repetition until recognition. You might wonder, but I've done the work. I've healed so much. Why does this keep happening? Because the ego is clever. It knows how to disguise avoidance as progress. You can build an entire identity around healing while still refusing to feel the raw, unbearable truths at the core. The truth that you're still scared to be seen. The truth that you sabotage love because deep down you don't feel worthy of it. The truth that freedom terrifies you more than failure. These aren't issues to solve. They are truths to hold, with presence, with honesty, without flinching. Jung believed that wholeness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from integration. That means bringing all parts of yourself into awareness, even the ones that terrify you. The angry child, the manipulative protector, the jealous voice, the ruthless ambition. These parts don't ruin you. They complete you, but only when they are seen, owned, and loved back into belonging. The cost of ignoring them is your life, not your existence. You'll still go through the motions, but your real life, the one you were born to live, remains just out of reach. Because the soul cannot express itself through a mask. It will keep trying, through anxiety, through dreams, through strange synchronicities and gut feelings. But if you ignore all of it, the shadow stops whispering. It hardens, it retreats, and you become a shell, a performer in someone else's script, a ghost in your own body. Eventually, even your dreams become distorted. You pursue goals not because they excite you, but because they validate your mask. You start chasing healing as a way to feel worthy. You build a brand around self-growth, but feel empty inside. You say the right words, post the right quotes, but you're secretly drowning in shame and confusion. This is the worst consequence of all. A life that looks alive, but isn't. But here's the beauty in all this darkness. The shadow is not here to destroy you. It is here to lead you back to the pieces you abandoned. The self who once believed in magic. The one who knew how to say no. The one who cried easily, who loved fully, who dared to be seen without armor. You didn't lose that self. You hid them. And your sabotage is the soul's way of saying, enough, no more pretending. Come back, come home. It starts with a decision, not to fight the shadow, but to welcome it, to sit with the part of you that derailed your progress, ruined your plans, wrecked your routines, and say, I know why you did it. I forgive you. Now, let's try something new together. This is a rebellion, integration over perfection, because you don't need to fix yourself to grow. You need to include the parts you've cast out, the angry one, the bitter one, the scared one, the one who burned everything down because they were tired of playing nice. They don't need a cage. They need a seat at the table. Carl Jung didn't believe in self-improvement the way it's sold today. He believed in wholeness. And wholeness is messy. It means you stop trying to become someone else and instead become fully who you already are. Not a sanitized version. Not an enlightened caricature. You, raw, honest, human. So, how do you begin? Not with a morning routine, with a reckoning. You turn inward and ask, where have I silenced myself to stay safe? What dreams did I bury because they made others uncomfortable? What do I keep sabotaging because deep down I don't believe I'm allowed to have it? And when the answers come, not as thoughts, but as aches, you don't run. You listen. You write letters to the parts of you you've hated. You apologize to your younger self. You say the things you've never said aloud, even if no one else ever hears them. You reclaim your truth. And from that truth, a new power rises. Not external, internal. The kind of power that doesn't beg for approval because it remembers its source. Your sabotage becomes your compass. Each time you feel the urge to ruin something good, you pause. You ask, what part of me is afraid right now? What story is this fear protecting? You don't shame it. You hold it. And slowly, the shadow starts to shift. From saboteur to ally, you change how you speak to yourself. No more barking orders like a drill sergeant. You speak like a guide. Firm, clear, compassionate. I know this is scary, but we are safe now. We're not hiding anymore. This is reparenting. This is healing. This is how the nervous system begins to trust again. You build rituals instead of routines, not for productivity, but for presence. You give yourself silence every day. You let the breath come all the way in. You treat your body not as a project, but as a sacred vessel. You stop hustling to become worthy. You remember that you already are, and the people around you, they will feel the shift. Some will draw closer. Others will fall away. Let them, because when you stop living in sabotage, you stop attracting those who thrive on your self-betrayal. Your new frequency won't be, please love me. It will be, I love me. You're welcome to join, but I'm not shrinking to fit. You'll no longer fear success, because you've dismantled the belief that success will make you unsafe. You've redefined it. Success is no longer being perfect. It's being present. It's staying with yourself, even when the old scripts whisper, this is too much. You're too much. Go back. But you don't go back. You stay, rooted, open, whole. And when you falter, and you will, you won't spiral into shame. You'll recognize the old patterns rising, and you'll greet them like old ghosts. I know you. You used to run the show, but I'm in charge now. This is sovereignty, the reclamation of your inner throne. Eventually, your life starts to reshape itself, not because you forced change, but because you became someone who can hold it. The sabotaging energy that once destroyed everything you touched now fuels your art, sharpens your intuition, deepens your relationships, rebuilds your nervous system from the inside out. You no longer fear the shadow. You dance with it. You speak its language. You lead it into light. And that is the most powerful rebellion of all. You never wanted to sabotage your life. You only wanted to stay alive inside it. And when the world taught you that being fully alive was dangerous, you learned how to shrink. You became good. You became useful. You became careful. But not free. Carl Jung didn't believe the goal of life was to become good. He believed the goal was to become whole, to integrate the totality of who you are, not just your light, not just your achievements, but your rage, your lust, your sorrow, your chaos, your power, because only in wholeness is there truth, and only in truth can there be freedom. The ultimate truth? Your sabotage was never sabotage. It was a sacred protest, a refusal to live a lie, a scream from the buried self that said, I will not let you build a life that excludes me. I will destroy what is false to protect what is real. I would rather burn the house down than be locked in a beautiful prison. You weren't failing. You were fighting for your soul. You see, the shadow doesn't want to be feared. It wants to be fathered. It wants you to grow strong enough to hold it without flinching, because in doing so, you become indivisible, no longer ashamed, no longer split, no longer outsourcing your worth to a world that profits from your confusion. You become what Jung called a self, the integrated union of all opposites, the one who contains paradox, who no longer resists contradiction, who doesn't need to perform healing, because they have become it. And the life that follows, it isn't louder, it's deeper. You no longer live from the fear of, what if? You live from the knowing of, I am. You stop asking the world to mirror your value, and instead walk into rooms like someone who remembers. You don't flinch when triggers arise. You don't collapse at the first sign of discomfort. You meet each wave of resistance with presence, not because you've conquered the shadow, but because you befriended it. The old patterns, they still show up, but now you see them. You see the procrastination not as laziness, but as fear being seen. You see the self-doubt not as truth, but as the echo of someone else's shame you once mistook for your own. And because you see them clearly, they no longer own you. This is what Jung meant when he said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. You are not the story. You are the author. And now you write something new, not a fairy tale, not a flawless narrative, but something real, a life that includes all of you. And here's the final paradox. The moment you stop trying to become someone else is the moment you finally arrive. The moment you stop chasing healing like a finish line is the moment you realize you were always healing. Every breakdown, every relapse, every ruin plan, every time you fell apart just before the breakthrough was not a failure. It was a soul pulling you back into truth. So now, when someone asks you, how did you stop sabotaging yourself? You'll smile and say, I didn't. I just listened. I stopped treating my fear like the enemy. I let the part of me that wanted to burn it all down speak. And then I built something it could finally belong to. Because this is the deepest truth of all. The only life that lasts is the one built with nothing left outside of it. Let that be your revolution. Not becoming perfect, becoming undivided. Because when you are whole, you are unshakable. When you are real, you are free. When you no longer exile any part of yourself, there is nothing left to sabotage, only something ancient and sacred finally coming home.